Heyo, Chris here, and thanks for tuning into the Delta. And welcome to the race preview slash predictions video, where we are going to try to predict the Belgian Grand Prix. We're heading to Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps.
Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps.
Another attempt at an American trying to pronounce a European name, but nonetheless, it is an iconic track that we get to see yet again. As always, we'll cover the brief specs of the circuit, and its total length is 7.004 kilometers, the longest of tracks there in the F1 calendar, and thus it only has 44 total laps and a total race distance of 308.052 kilometers. And for such a long circuit, you would think that it would have a lot of DRS zones, but it only has 2. The track has 19 turns, ranging from fast and flowy to a nice technical chicane there at the end of the lap. Spa hosts the iconic Radillon à Rouge. I'm assuming it might also be called Radillon? Radillon
au rouge.
I don't know. I'm not European. I'm not Belgian. I'm not French. It sounds French, but it's in Belgium. I don't know. Which is the combination, though, of turns 3, 4, and 5. It forces drivers to have to be really daring if they really want to put in some good track times, as they have to go speeding downhill into turn 3 and then have to suddenly fight gravity going uphill there into turns 4 and 5 as they ascend into the Kimmel Straight. I love this circuit just basically because of that little sector alone. It's very unique, really cool. But also the track is just beautiful to look at in general, the surrounding area. And then there's one more interesting fact that I saw that I would like to share, and that is that this track has about a 63% chance of a safety car and a 25% chance of a virtual safety car. So maybe we see somebody stuck in the gravel or into the walls, and we're going to see a little bit of a shakeup there for this race. And before we carry on anymore, like and subscribe to the channel. Helps me out a lot, helps the channel out a lot, and it is really cool to see you guys taking interest in the things that this dumb American has to say, even if it's just for the poor pronunciation of European cities and towns and names. But anyway, let's get into the video. As always, I like to cover the upgrades that I find at the time of recording. As always, I get it from the F1 Unchained YouTube channel. Link will always be in the description to that video, so check his video out. He always expands upon just the brief overview that I give, and he knows what he's talking about significantly more than I do. But we'll start with Aston Martin, and it is that they're possibly bringing in some new or revised side pods. The team has said to be struggling with some handling issues, so their focus is also to make the car easier to drive for their drivers. The other team coming in with some sort of upgrade is Ferrari. Currently they have a bouncing problem, and the upgrade they brought to Hungary was hoping to mitigate that some, and apparently it did, according to Carlos Sainz. So Ferrari is just adjusting their suspension at this point to help reduce the bouncing even more. From what I understand, Spa is a super bouncy track, so if you already have a bouncy car, you are not going to have a good time. So Ferrari is going to be doing whatever they can to reduce any kind of jumping and bouncing and rattling around for their drivers. And then the next team that I have with an upgrade is Mercedes. They said they are going to bring in a couple upgrades before the summer break, so I'm not sure exactly what that means, but then just count on Mercedes making some changes for Spa as well. They're just performing at a high level, and it seems like everything that they're doing to that car is just making them better and better and better. So we'll see what Mercedes can do at a track like Spa. Then we'll cover the weather. Temperatures look pretty comfortable between the mid 60s into the 70-degree range. However, Friday and Saturday look really wet, which will be interesting as the teams will have a potentially practice and qualify in the rain. But it looks like it's going to be a nice day, at least dry, on race day. And that's really interesting for me, just because I've always wondered too that, like, when you do all your testing in wet weather or dry weather, and then it comes race day, Like, did you fine tune that car according to the wet weather or to the dry weather? Because if you're fine tuning your car to be quick on wet tires on a wet circuit, is it going to be the same for Sunday when the track is dry? Like, how much of a difference? Is there a vast difference between your setups? Or is it one of those things where it's like, nah, it's basically the same. It's just make sure you put on the right tires, Ferrari. Like, don't put on hards on a wet surface or wets on a dry surface. But that's neither here nor there. I mean, I figured that was just base level. But now we'll just get into my predictions. As always, we start with the biggest loser. And I am going to go with Alpine again. They are just dreadful. I gave them a shot. I even put them in my power rankings a few weeks ago. And Gasly can't even get out of formation lap. Gasly can't even get out of the first stint of a race. I mean, that's 2 races in a row where he's just been called back to the garage like, you're done. Nothing happened. You're just not going to finish the race in this car. And Ocon is driving a tractor and just slow, coming in that, P18, their last race. It's not good. I don't expect anything different. I'm not expecting them to bring in upgrades and suddenly they're fighting for, even 15th, 14th spot. I think they are just not good. I don't think the drivers like the car. I don't think the drivers can handle the car. And I don't think anyone in the garage knows what the hell they're doing. I mean, I shouldn't be so harsh. They know what they're doing, but they're not solving any problems, or at least not being able to keep up with anybody. And if you can't even keep up with your back markers in the midfield, then, I mean, you're at a lost cause. Like I've said before, I'm sure they're just looking for the end of the season, not just summer break. I think they're looking just to get out of the year. But then we'll move on to exceptional performance, and I got George Russell. George Russell kind of got shafted there in Silverstone. I do have a feeling that he could have taken the checkered flag there in Silverstone, but he had to retire his car. But he was more than fast enough to do the job. And he got screwed over there in qualifying in Hungary, where they messed up his fuel load. And, I mean, Hamilton got 3rd place. What if George Russell was in the mix? Would somebody have challenged Lando or Piastri, or were they just too fast? Would it have been like a 3-4? I think George Russell is going to just finally have everything put in order. He's going to be able to finish a race and get into a race with a good starting position and all that other stuff. Let's say he goes in and qualifies 3rd. I'm expecting him to finish somewhere between 1st and 5th. And I think he needs it. I think he deserves it. I think he's just gotten the bad end of the stick over the last few races, but it's no fault of his own. And we all know that his car, or in the Mercedes car at least, is more than capable of winning races. Then we move on to the biggest disappointment. I have Haas. Now, I had them moving up in the power rankings just because of those 2 great performances by Nico Hülkenberg, and just overall they're making great decisions. But it seems that they're in Hungary, and maybe it might have just been the track, but I got to go off of most recent history. I just don't know if Haas has the car that is necessary to go on such a diverse track. Like, there's some fast corners, there's a hairpin, there's a chicane, there's that first turn out of the gate. I don't remember the name of it, but it's pretty sharp. They're a sharp right-hander right out of the gate. So, like, there's all these different things. You need downforce. You don't need downforce. It's just, I don't know if they have all the answers for the track itself. I mean, who does? I mean, I guess everyone is going to have to make a decision on what to sacrifice and what not to sacrifice. Red Bull's going to sacrifice. Are they going to sacrifice downforce? Or are they going to sacrifice straight line speed? Like, all kinds of weird things. But there's just going to be some cars that can perform overall better than others. And I just don't think Haas is going to be one of them. Now we'll move on to the shocker pick. And because I recently saw the 63% safety car chance and the 25% safety virtual safety car possibilities, I'm going to go with 3 cars DNF due to crashing. Not because their car fails. I mean, I guess I should put that in. It would make me look better if 2 cars failed because of engine failure and 1 crash. But I'll stick with the crashing descriptor. if there's that much of a likelihood, I mean, you could easily get it on the first turn alone where just 2 cars run into each other and that leads into another car. Next thing you know, 3-4 cars are out of the race. That would constitute. But no, the cars are just so reliable. Drivers are too good. And even when Max Verstappen is flying in the air, he's able to land it, turn, and continue his race and finish in 5th place. So we're just not seeing much action in the realms of crashing, and that's a good thing. We don't want anyone to get hurt or anything like that. But it's also, I think, the track that I've seen the highest yellow flag possibilities. So that's what I'm going to go with the shocker pick. 3 cars are going to bin it in some form or fashion and not finish the race. Then we'll go on to pole position. I have Lando Norris. Lando Norris, if you watched my race review video, should have won last race there in Hungary. I still stand by that. He was the fastest in Hungary there for qualifying. He was the fastest there on the race. I expect him to be the fastest there in qualifying for Spa. Again, with such a diverse track as this circuit is, they might suffer. I mean, but I feel like it's going to be hard to tell what individual team is and isn't going to suffer. I think Ferrari is going to have a difficult time on this track, but I also think Red Bull's going to have some struggles with it. I mean, because not everybody can be good at every aspect that this track needs to be, so you just have to find that one thing that you're willing to sacrifice. I think with all the sacrifices that teams are going to make, the McLaren car is going to be the least sacrificial. And because of that, he's going to be the fastest in the areas where they excel, and he just won't be the slowest in the areas where they sacrifice. And there you go, Lando Norris, pole position. Now we're going on to podium predictions. For P3, finally done it. I'm not saying Max is going to win anymore. He's going to get P3. The Red Bulls are struggling in one shape or form or another. I mean, Max was really upset with everything in Hungary, so it's hard to pinpoint, like, this was actually the exact problem they had. But they've been struggling now for the last few races. Silverstone, for instance, wasn't the most ideal. And the car isn't what it once was. And now Red Bull is going to have to rely on the skill of Verstappen, which is still, top tier talent. It's not like mashing him. He's still a great driver. But they're also going to have to rely on strategy and conditions and all this other stuff. When before they were like, oh, it's a little wet, just keep pushing it there, Max. You're winning by 20 seconds. Oh, our tire decision was a little rough, but guess what? You got a 30-second lead. We'll pit you, and then we'll just, those days are gone. So if there's one thing that goes wrong for Max, or one thing that doesn't work out for the strategy or the decision making or whoever makes that type of stuff, it's just not going. It's going to make them pay. They're not going to be able to just look it over and be, all right, we'll still win. This time, if you make a mistake in the strategy, they put on the wrong tires, they're going to put Max in a position like he was there in Hungary, where he's going to have to start taking risks and chances and stuff like that. And, well, I mean, I'll be honest, Max Verstappen taking risks and chances is way more entertaining than watching Max Verstappen win by 20 seconds. That was super entertaining, watching him moan and groan on the radio while also taking those lunges there at Hamilton at the end of Hungary. But yeah, Max Verstappen P3, I think he's going to just have a difficult time in a car that's not going to be able to bail him out. And then for P2, I have George Russell. Now, I guess it could be any Mercedes, but I got George. Like I said, he's had a rough couple of races to none of his own accord. So we've been seeing Lewis Hamilton have some great success over the last few races, and I think George Russell is putting in about the same performances. And with that, Max has a rougher race than George. Lewis Hamilton, I mean, again, he could be the one that comes in second, but I think George is just going to do a little bit better than Lewis Hamilton, and maybe even Mercedes throws him a bone when it comes to strategy time or something like that. I don't know. So crazy things have been happening over the last week, so who knows what team orders will be anymore. I thought we were cutthroat, but apparently we're the Care Bears and hand out wins. But yeah, maybe Mercedes says, hey, Lewis, you're in 5th place. push where you can, and we're gonna do what we can to make sure George Russell gets a P2 or win, you know? But that will go on to the winner, and I got Lando Norris. I don't think he's gonna give up a win. I think he's gonna be the fastest car out there. I think he's gonna qualify well. I don't think anyone's gonna really be able to keep up with the McLaren, except for maybe Piastri. And I think if we would even get close to a situation where we did in Hungary, Lando Norris is going to tell him to pound sand, and that will be all said and done with that. Lando Norris is going to go, I'm winning the race. I was nice last race. That's it. I'm winning. Don't care what your strategy is. And that's pretty much the brass tacks of it all. Lando Norris is going to win it. But anyway, that's it. Those are my predictions. Hopefully not too long-winded, but I am looking very forward to the Belgian Grand Prix. Super fun track because it's just so unique in its shape and size and all the in-betweens. I'm looking forward to seeing the strategies. I'm looking forward to seeing how Ferrari does. I'm looking forward to seeing how George Russell does. I'm looking forward to seeing how McLaren, if they're going to fix their problems. There's a lot of things to watch for in this weekend's race, and I'm going to be sitting down with my popcorn ready to go. But until next time, take care, stay safe, and have fun out there. Bye, everybody.